Hey Nicolás, from bus driver to Brooklyn jail. Que caída, bro. Dale perreo. Hey! You started as a bus driver, Chavez little lapdog. Swore revolution, but you just stole the whole damn part. 2024 elections, Gonzalez won big time. But your crew flipped the script, pura falsedad. Cabron, hunger in the streets, soil to the cartel. Little soles million fled the country, left it full of hoes, tanks on protest, tear gas, dead bodies, prisoners in chains. Not that to snatch you at night, que vaina tan loca, man. Hurt walk, Maduro in chains. From palace to cell, what a crazy game. Maduro said, come get me, and they came for you. Narco King de Brooklyn, se va Dios. Se va. The dictator's gone. Se va. The dictator's gone. Celebra Venezuela. The party's on. Thought you were untouchable with Iranian drones and Cuban. But Delta rolling pretty dawn, grabbed you in pajamas. Dragged out, no time for makeup or escape. Now you're eating junk food while the people dance in the streets. Edmundo deserved the win, 67% on the sheets. You hit the telly screen fraud, now you're the one who clean. María Corina got the Nobel shining from exile. Laughing in Miami, Nicolás, te jodiste, que frío. Operation Absolute, results planning the hit. They know your best. Your food, even what you wear. Legit. Helicopters, though. Explosions de Fuerte Tuna. Trump watch live from Mar-a-Lago. Nicolás, from bus driver to Brooklyn jail. Que caída, bro. Dale perreo. Hey! You started as a bus driver.
We're back and continuing with
swore revolution, but you just stole the whole damn part. 2024 elections, Gonzalez won big time. But you the script, pura falsedad. Cabron, hunger in the streets, soil to the cartel. Little soles million fled the country, left it full of hoes, tanks on protest, tear gas, dead bodies, prisoners in chains. Not that to snatch you at night, que vaina tan loca, man. Hurt walk, Maduro in chains. From palace to cell, what a crazy game. Maduro said, come get me, and they came for you. Narco King de Brooklyn, se va Dios. Se va. The dictator's gone. Se va. The dictator's gone. Celebra Venezuela. The party's on.
We're back and continuing with the world lead, and
Thought you were untouchable with Iranian drones and Cuban. But Delta rolling pretty dawn, grabbed you in pajamas.
All right, everybody, welcome to the stream. This is Hexabyte Streams. If you're here now, we do real reactions, real takes, and none of the bullshit. So we'll get right to it. Hit that follow, hit that like button. We do have a request from a subscriber, which is Stephen Miller, speaks out. Basically, Stephen Miller goes crazy here on CNN. So Let's go ahead and take a look at this together. Give me one moment. Technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, let's jump right in.
And asking questions about what happened in Venezuela over the weekend and what happens now. White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller joins us now. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. So a source briefed on the Venezuelan operation told me that a handful of American troops sustained bullet and shrapnel wounds, but none are life-threatening. Can you share with us how serious any injuries to American service members might be, and also any information you can tell us about any Venezuelan civilian casualties?
Yes, well, let me take the second part first, which is that the overwhelming share of casualties and fatalities that were inflicted were against the Cuban guard that had exerted control over the people of Venezuela. So what many don't realize is that for years, Maduro stayed in power.
Okay, guys, so he said overwhelming, right? Which means that there were some civilians that did perish. The way they're framing this is not an attack on a sovereign nation. They're framing this whole thing as an arrest. It was a law enforcement action, and they judicially extradited Maduro from Venezuela back to United States. So if it's an arrest, how many arrests do you guys know where we brought in Delta Force and helicopters and shot missiles and collateral damage? That's something you usually don't do for an arrest. But all right, continue.
Through an illicit deal with Cuban communists to provide his security because he didn't trust his own people to keep him safe. That is how much he was hated inside of Venezuela. So what our special forces encountered when they did that daring midnight assault into Caracas were armed Cuban guards, and they sustained massive numbers of casualties. I can't give you an exact number. The numbers that you've seen in terms of the Cuban guards publicly reported are probably lower than the actual number that were killed. To your first question, no, none of the, at least as I've been briefed.
Yeah, I guess they had a lot of foreign help. They had Cuban guards, they had Chinese air defenses, and they have some Soviet weapons and things of that nature. So, but if this little strike tells you guys anything at all, those Chinese air defenses didn't work too well. China might want to start doing some upgrades.
None of the injuries are life-threatening. Everybody is stable. And it just underscores the remarkable skill, precision, courage, and capability of our special forces. And I wanted to set the table one more time for your audience. I'm sure you've talked about it at length already. But the United States of America launched an assault force into Venezuelan territory,
right,
which has sophisticated air defense systems, which has sophisticated surveillance systems, which has weaponry that they've received that can take out planes and helicopters from our foreign adversaries that they've been stockpiling for years in anticipation of the possibility of such an action.
Right.
Maduro was staying.
When you guys said this is imperialism 101, and he's defending it. Thing is, I mean, if we're going to take over their country, I would agree with that statement. But the idea is to let the people have an election and have the country back. If anything, we're doing the nation building, not something that Trump said we wouldn't be getting into, and we are. So, a little disappointed about that, but let's continue.
In a military fortress. In other words, since the United States had started amassing this armada under President Trump's leadership and direction, he'd increasingly narrowed the scope of his own movement, and he was sleeping in a fortress.
Yeah,
and so we flew into Caracas.
Yeah.
These special forces engaged in direct gunfire with elite Cuban guards, and every single kill was an enemy kill.
So there were no civilian casualties?
Okay, hold on.
Well, I didn't see any reports of any civilian casualties. But my point is that in this raging gunfire battle.
So I've heard from sources that say that there were civilian casualties. Now, that's the other side of the aisle. They might just be trying to kick shit, over to the right, or the right's trying to kind of get out of it, saying, "Oh, don't look here." So, yeah, but I haven't really seen anything legitimate or seen where they showed the bodies. So
that took place. The point that I'm making to you is no Americans were killed.
Right.
Because of the planning, skill, and preparation, the enemy sustained massive losses.
Yeah.
Not one of our assets was lost, not one of our people was lost.
So let's talk about what next. Delcy Rodríguez was formally sworn as Venezuela's acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, without a doubt, Zionist in character, unquote. Is acting President Rodriguez someone that the U.S. can work with?
So the acting president put out a statement, I want to say, Jake, it was last night, pledging cooperation with the United States, pledging full and complete cooperation.
But they also just passed a law saying that if you supported the operation against outlawing individuals or threatening with criminal penalties individuals if they supported the operation against Maduro. I think they did that today.
Well, the good news there, Jake, is that nobody inside of Venezuela supported the operation, so it's a law without meaning or effect. Look, Jake, there's going to be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way. The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months. One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Arauco gang members leaving.
I mean, that's like the equivalent of like Navy SEALs going up against I don't know, paintballers or something, right? Like it's just no comparison. It's like, yeah, Navy SEALs like going up against Boy Scouts. Like there's no chance. Of course, Venezuela, can't defend that.
The island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost
Right.
fleet, the dark ships.
We've
and
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of it.
of that,
Yeah.
and now on top of all that, right? Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife.
So
of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear.
But
Very clear. The government has sent messages. This is such an important point.
People are defending this like wild. Yeah, they are. This guy wants war everywhere. No, not everywhere. Just Venezuela and Colombia, possibly Mexico and Cuba, and Greenland, but that's it. That's all.
Point, Jake. To the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators, they have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that, Jake.
So let's the question about who is now running Venezuela is one that even members of Congress who are big Trump supporters say they're not quite sure about. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't know what President Trump meant by his assertion that the U.S. is running Venezuela, and he said he needs more information. Can you tell us what the president means when he says, is acting President Delcy Rodríguez in charge? Is she running Venezuela or not?
Well, what the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else, but we live in...
You guys could tell too that Stephen, or the CNN guy, is not having a good day. He's not enjoying this conversation.
In a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by
Sorry, this is Stephen.
Strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world that have existed since the beginning of time.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
No, what I'm saying is, we'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that, by definition, we are in charge, because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission.
No way.
For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States is running the country during this transition period.
If that's true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country. So doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12 curriculum in the country.
The indictment that the president and the military were acting on from 2020 was of 6 people. 2 of them were seized on Saturday by our special operators. There are 4 other individuals indicted who remain in Venezuela. Is the U.S. demanding that they be turned over? One of them is Maduro's son. One of them is a former government official, one is a current government official, and one of them is the head of Tren de Aragua, as I'm sure you know. Are they going to be turned over if President Trump is, in fact, running Venezuela in the way you describe?
Well, I don't want to, obviously, you know, we have to balance here, Jake, which I think you more than most understand. We have to balance between, of course, what I can say to you publicly versus very close hold conversations that might be happening privately. And I know you understand and respect that. But I'll answer the question in this way.
What do you guys say? What does he actually think about, or how does this play out internationally? I'm not sure if you guys watched the UN security, the emergency briefing they had the other day. Yeah, a lot of the countries were not having it. Some were, like Argentina was with us. But our ambassador got up there and he did not apologize. You know, if anything, he doubled down on it. And I don't know. I think at the end of the day, they might not like it, but what can they do about it? Right? So, I mean, they're not going to stop it. This is going to happen either way. They can cry about it, but America's going to do what America's going to do. So,
there might be individuals who are fugitives from American justice that could become part of a future conversation. But it's also true that for government leaders inside of Venezuela, and as the president has said, right, we want an interim government that will respect the interests of the people of Venezuela, that wants a good, peaceful, secure future for Venezuela. So I would just say it this way. For those who may be indicted, the best choice they can possibly make is to be part of a constructive decision-making process for the future of Venezuela. The best decision they can make is to cooperate fully and completely with the United States to be part of building this brighter future for Venezuela during this interim period.
On another important topic, the Premier of Greenland and the Premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish Prime Minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, "I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War." Can you rule out that the U.S. is...
Yes and no. Yes and no. So, is Denmark a NATO member? Sure. But let's be real, guys. Who funds 99% of NATO? That's us, right? Who's all over the world taking care of all these things? That would be America, not Denmark, right? So I don't know how much pull Denmark has. If we go in, we take Greenland, and they're like, well, we're going to shut NATO down. Well, I don't think you're going to do that. You might be out of it, but I don't think you're going to shut it down. And I think the countries that are part of NATO, I think they rest a little easier knowing that, you know, Uncle Sam's got their back. So I kind of disagree with that statement.
Is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news, the president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right,
States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military...
What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Greenland should be part of the United States? I know they got a lot of resources we want, a lot of rare minerals, stuff that lets us make computer chips, stuff that we rely right now on from China, right? So Greenland gives us that economic advantage, not to mention a strategic military advantage over there in the region. But yeah, curious what you guys think.
Military action against Greenland is off the table.
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO.
Right.
For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to...
You got to feel bad for Jake, guys. Look at his face over here. He's just... He really wants to mess this guy up and get a headline. But I don't think military force is ever off the table.
Which, again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. So
one last question, Stephen.
Doesn't make any sense.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that basically her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year, 2 years ago, overwhelmingly, 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge. And the military would follow her and the security forces would follow her. This is not a serious... It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is
You could tell, guys, Jake does not like that. Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the left likes America to be weak. For some reason, they just, on the world stage, every time, and I'm more independent myself. But every time like the left gets in, you don't have the same kind of, I guess, toughness, right? You haven't really seen stuff like this since Bush, really. But Jake is not liking these answers.
Absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries should be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparations
about right
schemes,
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do, I know, you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping you'd be better
You love doing that smarmy thing, Jake. This is great.
than this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guys.
I don't think he's catching the hint, guys. We don't want, well, the current administration does not want the Maduro regime in charge. Of course, we're going to change that person out. Makes sense.
I post along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away.
No,
these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let,
so is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let.
Okay. Damn straight we did, guys. Oh my God.
Country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying,
we're not going to let.
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised.
I'm really enjoying Stephen Miller.
Made clear is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
And let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Wow, guys, that was a lot. Stephen Miller did not apologize for anything. If not, he doubled down. I think Jake could not wait to finish that interview. He was not having a great time. But, you know, it is kind of refreshing to see our country assert its power and do something like what they're saying, America first. But it's also scary that we're just flouting international law and we just don't care. So, kind of curious what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. But we'll go ahead and we'll wrap things up. Thanks for hanging out tonight. If you're new to the stream, go hit that like button. Give me a follow. And until next time, this is Hex, signing out.
Hey, Nicolás, from bus driver to Brooklyn jail. Que caída, bro. Dale perreo. You started as a bus driver, Chavez in a laptop. Swore revolution, but you just stole the whole damn part. 2024 elections, Gonzalez won big time. But your crew flipped the script, who the falsedad? Cabron, hunger in the streets, soil to the cartel. Little soles billion fled the country, left it full of hoes, tanks on protest, tear gas, dead bodies, prisoners in chains. Not that the snatch you ain't Nike, right? Not that local man. Maduro